So I went and saw the new Resident Evil movie last night, the final chapter, and I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about it because I'm a big Resident Evil fan. Full disclosure, I really like the films. I've watched them more times than I would like to admit, and actually I've got the second film playing right now. I'm doing a marathon. um, but I love the games. I can't play the first game with the sound on because the moaning just drives me bonkers. I can't. It freaks me out. So, full disclosure, it's a franchise that I absolutely love. So I tend to be a little biased in the positive sense when it comes to the movies. But I saw an interview, I think it was a day or two ago, from Milla Jovovich. She talks about how that this last film ties up a whole lot of stuff, and it was the plan from the beginning, and I'm gonna call bullshit on that, because Paul W.S. Anderson wrote all the Resident Evil films, and I could see if he had written the first one and then didn't write some of the other ones and was coming full circle, but there's no way that they could have planned that this was going to be the ending and then have the second film. The second film ruins everything because in this last film, spoiler alert, by the way, because I'm just going to tell you what happens in the film. So if you haven't seen it, now would be the point where you want to turn off this video because I'm going to tell you what happens at the end of this film. So you find out in this film that Alice has been a clone the whole time, like from the very beginning, and that she is the clone of this woman whose father developed the T-virus. Now, if you're a fan of the Resident Evil films, you know that in the second film, Angela Ashford's father developed the T-virus. So they kind of ignore that happened, and that's something that the Resident Evil franchise actually does quite often, and I find it very lazy writing, that they will introduce a character and then not tell you what happened to this character, or they'll bring you up to a certain plot point, end a film, and then that's not what we're going to do now. We're going to take it over here instead. And I remember when I was in university many years ago, this guy in one of my classes was so excited because they had written a sequel. The man who had written, I don't know if the book was called Willow, but the book that the movie Willow was based on. And he was so excited because there was a sequel. He was like, yay! And he got to about the second or third chapter, and the writer killed off all the characters, like just did this massive mass murder of all the main characters of the story. And I remember this guy being so pissed off because that's lazy writing. And that's what they actually did between the end of the fifth film and the sixth film. Is at the end of the fifth film, there's this huge battle going on in Washington, and you've got all these characters who've come together that you've followed through this last film, like Leon and all these people, and then the beginning of the next film, it's like, oh, the battle's over, and the only one left is Alice. It's just Alice on her own. And that's fucking lazy writing. Okay? That's lazy writing. That's up there with, it was all a dream. You can't do that in writing because that pisses people off. Right? Like, you can't build up to something and then just be like, nope, we're not doing that. And Resident Evil has a real problem with that, the Resident Evil films, because they do that repeatedly, where Angela just vanishes from the second film to the third, and it would have been a very easy fix if when Alice met up with Carlos again, and it could have been easily fixed with one line of dialogue if he had just said something like, like, you have to stop blaming yourself. What happened to Jill and Angie? There, done. We don't need to know what happened to Jill and Angie because we know that Jill shows up later. right? Like they just pop her in later. So, you know, it's an easy enough fix. They just don't bother. And then they do lazy stuff like, you know, we're just going to kill everybody off, or we're just going to pretend this character never existed. And that really pisses me off. Because we get to the end of this last film, like we're 6 films in, and we're just going to ignore an entire film worth of canon. And it really, that really, really bothered me. And there's really no excuse for it. There really isn't to do that. Another thing that really bothered me is they decided that this entire apocalypse, the whole story, was this elaborate plan by Dr. Isaacs to cleanse the earth. It's basically, he's using like the biblical flood as an example of cleansing the earth, and which is great. My only question was, why do we need such an elaborate plan to do it? Right? Like, why do we need this clone of this Alice clone to believe this story and go through all this? Like, why not just release the T virus? Nobody needs to know why it's released or how it's released, because everybody's supposed to be dead. That's the thing. And even if it's to keep the higher ups and their families in Umbrella, if it's for them, they're not going to know the intricacies of it, right? Like it just seems like such a specific scenario to create in order to do this, that I don't see the point. Like, why not make it seem, you know, like, and it's something that they developed in I think it was in the 5th movie, that, you know, you had China wanting to destroy Russia, and Russia wanted to destroy the US, and blah, 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 blah. And they were, you know, using these scenarios to sell this bioweapon. So it really wouldn't be unfathomable that, you know, Umbrella made it look like one of these countries did it, or all of these countries did it, that they all released this bioweapon at the same time and caused the end of the world. That wouldn't be an unlikely scenario. So why would we make this weird, intimate little scenario where it's, you know, this woman believes that this is how the outbreak happened? Like, it doesn't make sense, other than to develop this clone. And like, it just seems like a weird scenario. Like, was it just to torment the woman the clone was based off of, like to torment the Red Queen, maybe? Like, I don't understand the necessity of this intricate little plot. Maybe I'm missing something. If you can come up with a reason for it, feel free to comment. I'd really like to get somebody else's opinion on that, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If that was the end game, was just to cleanse the earth, it just seems like a weird way to do it. And the thing is like, it's set over a decade. So it's like, if the point was to torment this woman with this clone, like, or like, like the clone could have died anytime in that 10 years. So like, it just seems so weird to me that was the plan. Like, it just seemed like a weird plan to me. My final problem with this last film is, you see all these cryogenic canisters, and it's supposed, they say it's the higher ups in Umbrella. And my boyfriend leaned over to me during the film, and he's like, "That's a lot of employees. Like that seems like a lot of higher ups in the Umbrella Corporation. Like, that seems like a lot of people." And then I got to think about it. It's like, you know what? It's probably not just Umbrella employees. It's probably their families, probably some of their servants' families. Like, these isn't just, you know, it's not just these evil Umbrella Corporation heads of the corporation. Like, you know, because you know, the head of Umbrella isn't going to be serving his own drinks, right? So it's like, So she blows up all these people at the end of the film to save humanity. And it's like, well, you know, you probably just killed a lot of women and children too, right? Like, you know, like these people are the cryogenic equivalent of Angie, right? Like her father worked for Umbrella. She had no control over it whatsoever, you know, and you wouldn't punish her for that. So I apologize for the sniffles. I'm just getting over the flu. So I apologize. But yeah, it's one of those things where you just kind of, am I thinking too much into it? Like I appreciate that it's just a Resident Evil film and it's never going to win any Oscars or anything like that. But you know, like they get into like elaborate detail in this film about scanning the little girl to make the model for the Red Queen, and they really get into that, like they're adamant about making sure that they've covered the basis for that, but then they're really lazy when it comes to a lot of other stuff, and I don't know if I'm just being too nitpicky considering it is a Resident Evil movie. Am I expecting too much? But yeah, so I enjoy, for what it is, I enjoyed it. I mean, I really did enjoy the religious zealot Dr. Isaacs, and I thought that was a really neat twist at the end when Dr. Isaacs' clone murders him because he's an abomination, and like just the crazy religious Dr. Isaac, I really found really entertaining, and so yeah, like there were things about it I enjoyed, and there were like, I think if it hadn't been for the whole arc of the story, that these things wouldn't have bothered me as much. But yeah, feel free to add your opinion, comment, like, share, do whatever it is you do with these videos. I don't know. And yeah, thanks. Bye.